Welcome back to Developers Play Defender's Quest. I'm Lars Doucet.
And I'm James Cavan.
And we are Level Up Labs. Now, I'm trying to remember where we were when we last were. I think we had just gotten Marcos.
And we had just earned the shameful blue star.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Okay, well, let's check out our party real quick. Okay, let's see. We've got Marcos. I think we've got decent equipment, don't we? You can see that all at a glance here. So the idea is in this game, when you get so many characters, you want to be able to see at a glance like what your equipment status is. And so I guess it would be nice if it showed how much money we have, which it doesn't. Okay, she's got absolutely nothing. Let's put that on for now. So what we can do is we can either start it off or we can go back to a previous mission. Let's go back to a previous mission real quick.
Works for me.
Let's try this, and then we'll move forward. So let's try and get this Charlatan Staff. There was actually all kinds of fun bugs related to this particular piece of unique equipment.
Really?
Yeah, because in the original version of the game, like, we released this game for the first time in January of 2011, I want to say?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or 2012. I think it was January 2012. We originally released it with like terrible graphics and like no New Game Plus, and we changed a lot of the rewards later on after Gold version and stuff like that. And so there was something else here other than the Charlatan Staff. And so what would happen is that players would import a save from the old version of the game, particularly the old demo, into the new version, and then they would not be able to get this item because the game would have it listed as beaten, but it wouldn't be in their inventory.
Yeah, I think we used to have, was it the Blood Feud Copal was here, I think.
Yeah, and so what I did is that I put a script into the game. So when it imports your save, it does a lot of monkeying to your saves to make sure that they're all okay and fix all these issues. So one of the things it does is look to see if you've beaten this battle on Extreme and don't have the Charlatan Staff. And if both of those are true, since it's a unique item and you can't throw it away, it gives you the Charlatan Staff. However, that caused another bug because what would happen is that players would already have the Charlatan Staff and then upgrade it. And so it would give you an extra version of the loser version. And then, since it's a unique item, it won't let you have two of the same item, so people have this unupgradable item and think it's broken. When really they have the upgraded Charlatan Staff, the script just gave a false positive and gave them an extra version of the old one.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I fixed that in the latest build, but I got so many emails about that. It's like, the Charlatan Staff is broken. Anyway. So, it's really interesting and semi-difficult to maintain legacy support across a save file years down the line, but I think it's worth doing. So I'm going to pause here before these guys arrive.
Do we have this set in another language?
That is Czech, I believe.
We clicked it. Well, okay, so feature announcement.
Yeah, okay, that's that Czech translation I've been experiencing. So apparently there's a bug there, and we're set in English. Let me just start over here real quick. Yeah, anyway, so we're working on this Czech translation with one of our fans. It's doing a really good job. But apparently there's a bug where the names of the enemies get stuck if you turn on the Czech translation and go back to the English one. So anyway, here's where we were at. That's better. Anyway, so this is a cool new feature here. We add these swimming enemies, and what we do here is that this yellow spawn point is not available in the first version of this battle. So now we have to contend with not only these guys, but also these guys coming over here. So it's a way to breathe new life into an old battle. So I think probably the best place for Sack is here, maybe?
Yeah, just as like emergency goaltending.
Okay, and let's get him to Flurry. And then, now here's an interesting choice. I can put this guy here. Normally, and then because we have guys that are going to be marching along these river stones here in this water, that might be a good spot for him.
That makes sense. He gets to cover two lanes.
Okay, I'm going to get him to Flurry. Then I'm going to put this guy... Should we focus just on the left lane, or... I mean, we're going to have twice as many people coming from here, but what do you think?
It might make sense to get him, because Slack is going to be basically at 50% capacity on either side.
Okay, so let's put a dedicated guy there. Then let's pop down a ranger and see how terrible our strategy is. Okay, let's get things going. Okay, yeah, I think I already talked about the difficulty in getting the little water animations to work, and making the tiles like all work so that the water animations would work from either side. I mean, you still get stuff where it looks like they're walking on water for a frame or two here.
So how difficult would that be compared to just creating a whole new animation of like, guy jumps into water, guy jumps out of water?
I mean, that's basically what it's doing. I mean, it would be probably about as difficult. I mean, the real challenge is just getting it to detect when he's going into water and when he's leaving the water correctly. And that might just be like, there might just have been a smarter way to code it, but I certainly didn't have a way. Like, that was the challenge, was just detecting when it should start and when it should finish. Because if I knew that, it would always look right. It was just... And then you'll notice, like, they pop out of the water really quickly so that they don't look like their feet are dragging through this tile. Like, and it's interesting like that. You can't always assume that the rules are going to be the same depending on where they're coming from. You know, so like going down is different than going up, is different than going left and right. Okay, that guy's taking some damage. Should I put the healer in? I should probably...
Might just get a second berserker there to kind of draw a little aggro and help him out. Cause...
Well, I don't have any more berserkers, but I do have a knight.
There we go.
Put him on the corner. There's no armor here, but he is a great tank. If I can boost him, I can get some blinding going on, which will be really nice. Okay, Slack might need a little frenzy power here. Be able to sure reliably take care of those guys. Okay, I'm probably going to regret that when the worms start coming to town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
let's see. We don't have any ice mages in the mix yet.
Right. Okay. Where would would probably? Where do you think?
We could get her right in the middle, get her where she can help Slack out the most.
Yeah, I mean, and then when we boost her, she'll get more range. I mean, she's a ranged character, so it's not so much about coverage. Like, as long as she's... That's an interesting high-level strategy, is as long as someone's always got targets available to them, it sometimes doesn't matter if they don't have super ideal coverage, because they're not wasting any time. Like, there's always a target available for them to shoot at, so... You know, if you've got a Berserker covering one corner, but he's always able to hit something... You know, that's not necessarily a waste, although usually it's like you want to maximize the amount of area you can cover. Oh man, that was a well-timed freeze. Okay, I'm gonna switch her over to fast now. Put her on worm hate. That helps because we have enough time to deal with the other stuff here. Okay, get her to sleep. That should help us out here with the last stuff here. So I feel like we're a little above the power level for this one, so it's not too hard, but we are still having to think a little bit. Yeah, and then we'll be bum rushed from all sides by the purple guys. And one thing that the engine that we wrote did not allow us to do was to spawn more than one wave at the same time. So we often had some limitations like that. Like there were some design situations that we perhaps could have come up with if we could spawn blue guys and red guys at the same time. So the closest thing we have to that is spawning guys from multiple points. And all that does is just alternate where they come from. So usually what we do is we'll speed up the spawn rate 3 times normal and have them spawn from 3 different spots to get 3 simultaneous waves at normal. Oh, who just
somebody's
died?
out.
That was our Berserker.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you don't pay attention. Okay, I'll put him here so he's got some assistance, and I'll put a cheapo healer on him. Keep him alive, and I'll boost him up to flurry. That was a lot of money we just wasted. Right at the end. Yeah, right at the end is usually when everything is going to go pear-shaped.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is getting close. Okay, keep. Oh my god, kill him. Okay, I think we've managed pretty well. Okay.
Whew. Cool. Skin of our teeth there.
Alrighty, so what should we invest in here? I mean, I guess let's just pump up flurry a little bit. Rage won't be available until he's at level 10. Rena. Should we just specialize in coldness, or should we spec her for damage a little more?
I almost always take my story characters and unlock their high-level attacks, just because I want them to do all the flashy, cool-looking stuff.
Right.
And then I use my generics. It's like, okay, you're going to be basic attack, pumped all the way up.
Well, let's pump up sleep, because that gives us damage as well as a little bit of... It increases her chill stuff here. So let's give her that, and then we'll... well, I'm not going to get that for her, because it's kind of expensive to boost an Ice Mage level 3, so I'm going to give her... skills here. And then him...
Oh, counter can be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, but this will allow him to knock enemies back.
Always nice.
Yeah, counter is one that I feel might be slightly underpowered. It's like, we had a hard time coming up with like enough skills for the knight, and then I had the idea, it's like, what if he could counter an ability? What's great about it is that it transforms, when he's got a counter ready, when an enemy hits him, it gives him an instant 100% free dodge, and then an instant counterattack against the melee. I probably should have made it also be able to target projectiles, because there's a lot of projectile heavy levels where the counter ability is basically useless. And so I'd originally thought about doing this where basically he would just like shoot like a little wave out of his sword, and that would be like the counter ability. But I never implemented it. I probably should have. But
I mean, that could...
it's really nice for keeping him alive and dishing out damage against melee targets, but I'm going to give him Hard Knock for now. I believe this is one of the very few defense-oriented attacks.
Yeah.
Strictly speaking.
I really liked it. Well, I guess we don't want to spoil enemies, but the
Just give him some rapid shots.
really big, scary guys that will attack. It was very nice to be able to just smack them upside the head.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a couple of knights with counter on that, that'll probably make it easy to deal with.
So it's a very nice tool for some very specific situations.
Right, let's give her a rapid shot there. Okay, this guy. I do like... make people not die. And then Azra, I do... like, early on in the original version of the game, basically the only spell anyone put any points into was Frenzy and occasionally Lightning. Like, we really had to go out of our way to make people try other spells. And I think we did an okay job. Like, Frenzy is still like everyone's favorite spell, but I feel like especially when New Game Plus mode comes along, the spells really come into their own. Let's go ahead and upgrade Crystal just to say we did.
I mean, Crystal is phenomenal just for the sheer amount of damage you can dish out at people.
Okay, cool. So now we got this unique item here, and is this the first time we've got a unique item? No, this is the second time we got that bow. So I really like this little flavor text you've always put in here. So is there anything you want to say about the Charlatan Staff?
This was more or less inspired by, I can't remember the name of them now, but historically you would have, people have a specific name for it, but you have these books that charlatans would create that were entirely gibberish, because you're dealing with a largely illiterate population, so you can roll in town and be like, hey, I am an astronomer. Here is my book of science. Would you like to pay me money for snake oil? This book proves that I'm smart.
Right.
And so we have like tons of these things lying around that are just all kind of just like, they'll throw some pictures in there and then it's just random squiggles. Right. So that's kind of what I was trying to capture.
Yeah, so basically this is some kind of roaming magician. Cool.
Because that's something I feel like we really miss out on in fantasy games, where it's like, well, if there's magic, then certainly there's fake magic, right?
Right. Well, let's equip that right away. Let's put that on an offensive person. And the question is, do we want to beef up our secondary Ice Mage, or maybe get our healer not be total crap? I think we're going to go with that. And then she can have the Shepherd's Crook, and then he can be terrible. Okay, cool. So we want to grind up another battle real quick here. There's...
Oh, our unique item is on the Advanced Challenge.
I don't know why that is, but... you know what? Let's march forward a little bit. Let us go into town here.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so this is the guard hideout, and basically here, like, I wanted to... you know, one of the things we try to avoid is, like, the weird situations where you have civilization in strange places. You know, it's like the story requires that you go to the demonic underworld. Oh, but the demons are just like middle-class German bourgeoisie people, and they have a town and a tavern and all that kind of stuff just to fulfill your adventuring needs.
And it starts raising some really weird questions when you go to a shop, buy a bunch of things from people, and then go outside and murder all their kinsmen with them.
Right, exactly. So
there's that, what's the shop and cave story that's being run by the little roaches?
Yeah.
Inside a room that's full of roaches that you ruthlessly murder.
And kill, yeah. That's pretty crazy. In the labyrinth level, I think. But yeah, so this basically is just like So tell us a little about these guys are ostensibly guards.
Yeah, the idea is Marcos and the Knights are all guards that used to run the edges of the pit. So when you get sick, you get chucked in the pit, just like everyone else. And the effect is kind of like being a cop in prison. You're not exactly a popular person.
Right.
So it actually made sense to us to have this tiny little enclave of people that are completely rejected from everyone else.
Right. And then just kicked off and on their own, and then so the armored revenants are their former buddies.
Yeah, they're all guards that have died. So that's the interesting thing about this predicament is it's almost a closed ecosystem where they've been completely separated and they're creating their own problems.
Right. Cool. And so here we can buy some swords and stuff. Oh, we can finally afford like a really expensive sword. So we could probably do that. I mean, that'll probably make a huge difference.
Yeah, probably.
See some armor we can get. I mean, we can definitely get some good armor. We're not real. Well, I mean, we're getting murdered a little bit, but first of all, should we recruit a second knight? You think?
They are certainly handy to have.
Okay, the knights we've always had trouble with the colorization of them not being terrible. It was especially terrible in the original version of the game, and I wouldn't say it's great now, but it's slightly better than it used to be.
Yeah.
Let's,
The problem is there is only so much flair you can put on something that's made out of metal.
Right, exactly. So I try to make these a lot more, like, plausible stuff, but, like, I really think I could have made some better color choices here. Anyway, let's go with this dude. And let's get an awesome sword for somebody. Let's make it slack, and then we'll hand me down some things.
Sounds good.
So, question is, does our hand-me-down sword go to him, or does it go to our secondary berserker?
I feel like we're probably going to be using Kared more initially.
Right. Well, especially because this guy's level 1 right now. Yeah, you want to recruit people early so that they can catch up. Okay, bows. It would also be nice to have a really sweet bow.
But we can't actually afford anything better than that unique one.
Yeah. Well, let's get something for one of our ladies here. And then, is there any cast-off stuff we're not using at all? Well, I don't think we'll ever use that again. Let's cash that in. Well, we might hire a new person soon. I mean, rangers are amazing. A little bit of armor. I think we might find it important to keep our healer alive.
That is often beneficial.
And I'm gonna put the cast off on whichever one does not have anything. Well, actually, I'm gonna make it so that he has the hide because it's important to keep the healers alive, and these girls aren't on the front lines. So that's good. Cool. So what's happening now?
So the idea here is that basically this city is in complete ruins, but you actually have a large amount of it still functional underground.
Mm-hmm. And by functional, you mean still
not functioning, but still there.
Yeah, all right. It's still there. Nobody's using it.
It's kind of our obligatory sewer level from a first-person shooter.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines in the game. Yeah, so it's pretty obvious what we're about to meet in the next one. So let's try to get one more story battle in for this episode, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so let's see if we can get this, and we will eventually redeem ourselves on that horrendous blue star. Cool, and so obviously there's some friction between Slack and Marcos here. I think this conversation kind of plays out something that we had as designers, is that we needed to differentiate the melee classes, because there's been other tower defense games that use people as characters. I mean, there's just been a lot of just strategy games in general, and a lot of the melee units often wind up feeling pretty similar. And so I thought it was fun to kind of have some interplay between these guys. And a constant reminder that Slack has a nearly religious devotion to not wearing armor because he's kind of nuts.
Yeah, those kind of limitations were always difficult for me to wrap my head around as a writer. It's like, so this guy uses only daggers because extrapolating that skill to something slightly longer is just too much for his little mind?
Yeah.
So I felt the only way to really justify what Slack does is to make him crazy.
Also gives us lots of room for implied nudity. This conversation always made me feel like a little confused because it's like when they're in the ghosty shape, they're basically like, I guess they're still in the real world. And in Azra's mind.
Yeah, they're basically like not in the real world anymore, but not fully realized in the halfwit world.
So he's naked in her head. Something tells me Slack would be particularly proud of this. Azra would be particularly horrified. I just put that together now. That's really disturbing. I feel like it's going to be followed by a horrible pickup line. Anyway, so here we have a bunch of little crystals dotting the level. We put these in early on, and then we get progressively stingier with them. Okay, does this make sense to put Slack here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best choice. What do you think? Rena, somewhere like...
That way we can sandwich her between a bunch of melee units, that would be...
Right, then she can take aggro for the unarmored units and also spread out the damage.
Yeah, we could probably get like Kared on the other side of her and then maybe Marcos so we can smack people back into that little meat grinder.
Oh, that's a good setup. That is nice. Let's boost him to smash. Let's see, yeah. 30% chance of knockback to smash. Oh, and then he can knock people back here too, so he's basically the first and the last guy to hit him. And that's actually what's interesting about your knights, because they do large damage to a single target. It actually works to have them at the beginning or the end of a battle. You know, because at the end, if they're not dead, they can hit them back and knock them back into the fray. And if they're at the beginning, they can like land a lot of good shots into them.
Break down the armor for everyone else, all that sort of stuff.
Right. I mean, I guess we're kind of putting all our eggs in one basket by focusing over here. But I feel like if we were to put someone here, they'd get murdered.
Yeah.
As everything starts running around that.
I think we can always get some rangers down to kind of soften them up early on.
If I put a healer here, he can get everyone. If I put him here, he can do a little residual damage and blind people, but he exposes himself.
Yeah, I think he's going to get eaten alive over there. Although he's got some armor now, but I still don't know that we want to tempt fate.
Let's put him there, and let's boost this guy. Speed this up. I mean, if we port the game to a better engine in the future, then we can... this guy is not going to do us any good yet. Then we can have times 8 and times 16 speed, which would be really fun. But for now, we can only do 4x and still maintain the game stability.
I mean, times 4 is pretty insanely fast, although it would be fun to crank it up to times 16 and just watch.
Yeah. Oh, with her hitting these guys over and over again, might be a good time to talk about status effects and stuff.
Oh man.
Implementing status effects is complicated, especially when you have to mix them, you know? Especially because you can have 2 different ice mages with 2 different amounts of chill and freeze and a different potency to it and a different amount of time left on it. And it took me a while to come up with an algorithm that dealt with that properly, because the naive just average them or just add their durations or just add their powers can jip the player out of a certain amount of...
Well, you end up with that horrible situation where you have someone with a big freeze stuck on them, and then someone hits them with a little freeze, and it actually speeds them up because you averaged the 2.
Right, or whatever, yeah. You know, so I wrote a whole article about how we dealt with that, but suffice it to say that the player is getting exactly all of the benefit out of it that they should. We made sure to take care of that. Okay, here's all these little wormy guys.
Those guys are highly revamped sprites, but the design came from one of your early projects, right?
Right. I can't remember if we already talked about this, but like, I mean, these of course have been redone by Tyvon, but the original Slugworm art was some art from an old game I made. Like one of my first games ever that I never finished was called Super Miyamoto Land, and it was like a Super Mario Brother ripoff starring Shigeru Miyamoto. And she can cover the exit there. Let's boost her up. And the idea was that, and so you had all these like really one-to-one analogs of stuff that was in Mario games. So you had these, instead of the turtles, you had little slugs, and they could come with or without shells, just like they could in Mario. And they'd have like green and red and purple shells and stuff like that. They called them Sloopas and Snoopas. And anyway, so I just took that exact sprite from Miyamoto Land and just stuck it right in the game. Like the early tests, like have the cute little snails and everything. Like their faces looked like Koopas too. But then we needed to like ugly them up to fit in our world. So like we just like put like a giant hole in their face.
Everything got darker and grittier.
Yeah, and pretty much like as the monsters like slowly get digested and become like the more like gross forms, I think James suggested that we remove eyes from them because eyes make something relatable. And if something doesn't have eyes, it's like...
Something that's just a mouth is terrifying. That's right. Something you'll notice in, it was the reveal trailer for Metro Last Light. It was a really phenomenally put together trailer. And you never see any eyes in the entire thing, even though it's full of people. And the only shot you have of someone's face is this guy pulling off his gas mask, and he just gets it up to his mouth, and he's screaming. And it's just a phenomenal image, because a mouth is a terrifying thing on its own. And it was somehow less human than if he had just left the mask on.
Right. This guy's just leveled up twice, so let's get his next skill and give him some armor pierce so he's not totally useless. Well, you know what? Let's pump everything into heal for now. Cool. So, dun dun dun.
Our little closed ecosystem is not so closed.
So, basically, Zelamir's gotten in somehow. Okay, do we want to go back and try some other ones now? Maybe?
I feel like there's probably a tasty, unique sword somewhere back there.
Cool. Well, I think we'll do that in the next episode. Let's go ahead and call it quits for now, and we'll see you guys back in the next episode. This has been me, Lars Doucet.
And James Kevin.
We are Level Up Labs, and hope we'll see you next time.